for sure, that scared me. And so why don't we start with mental training and specifically with mindfulness. And probably the key aspect to take away from, because it's so often discussed, mindfulness, and unfortunately, because of all the commercialization around it, it's really lost its meaning. It's almost become contradictory sometimes, because mindfulness isn't. It's a matter of being an act as well as it being a state, right? So you can have the trait of being mindfulness, but also be in a state of mindfulness. And so when you talk about, how to apply or be in a state of mindfulness, you really have to be specific. But mindfulness, in a nutshell, really is just paying attention, which is so valuable. Our attention is so valuable. Paying attention deliberately or in a very specific way. And it's with a purpose, without any judgment, and being present. I know that's again a terminology that's often used, but really what that means is really understanding the moment or really appreciating the moment. So from a systemic standpoint, I guess you can look at it in two ways. One is you're looking at it as the self-regulation of attention, right? So actually understanding what's going on and feeling the moment, feeling it, using all your senses to understand the sensations, all the things that go with it. And then it's the attitude that you adopt towards that moment, right? Which is ideally one that's curious and open and it's accepting. Okay, so we have a question. How do you think mindfulness has been commercialized? Well, I mean, it's been so saturated as far as what it means to be mindfulness, especially in this society that is full of distractions, that you'll have people that will preach or talk about applying mindfulness in a way that would benefit, I don't know, I guess there'd be some kind of bottom line attached to it. I don't know, it's become something where to be mindful is really to appreciate, I guess we were talking about to be present. But when it's talked about in a commercial sense, it's usually as if you need the help of somebody in order to achieve the state of mindfulness. When in reality, it's a matter of just kind of shutting all that stuff out, just really, really simplifying it and understanding that it's on a moment-to-moment basis. But when we talk about meditation, I mean, you talk about there's meditation apps, things like that, where to me, it's I'm kind of wary of those applications because, are you really present if you have some kind of apparatus or some Bluetooth or something going on? I know they can be helpful, and from what I hear, they are. But I think I'd rather just try to do it the way that I'm comfortable with, and do it in a way where, I'm not putting too much pressure on myself or feel like I have to do it the way somebody tells me to. And that's why I try to make it simple and in the way I describe it, and that's just paying attention in a particular way. You can think about it in two parts. It's the regulation of attention to the moment, and then the attitude that you take towards the moment. Once you're able to be in the moment and have that open attitude to it, there's just brain rewiring that goes. I mean, this is actually biological stuff that happens that just, connects neural links that haven't been connected before, and a network that grows, and that only benefits your mental state. But compassion, that's another thing where it's one of those words I think that's overly used, and it's difficult to say, hey, I'm compassionate, just in the same way as hey, I'm mindfulness. It's in a state where you're really not. It's just a state of being, right? Versus something that you just are, right? Something you continue. So I was just saying, oh yeah, I'm confident. I mean, you can be, but you can also have points where you lack some confidence. So similarly, you can be abundant in compassion in some points in your life, and then other points you don't have much else to give, and so you're not as compassionate, right? So I think the biggest takeaway here is remembering what is compassion, right? And what does it take to become compassionate? And so compassion, in a very simple sense, means to suffer together. And so the easiest way to develop compassion and develop that compassion muscle is to remind yourself that everyone else is suffering along with you. We all have our issues. Everyone's suffering, everyone's trauma, everyone's challenges, obstacles that they gotta face. It's all relative to that person. So it's impossible to like compare and understand if someone has a harder time or if they don't have as hard time as you've had it. It's really tough to say. It's a road you don't want to go down. I think you just keep it simple and just remember that everyone else is suffering. Life is hard. Doesn't mean that it's unpleasant. I mean, I think there's a lot of joy in overcoming difficulty. So it's not, looking at it negatively as far as like life, but we're all suffering together. We're all looking to, overcome, whatever personal things that we need to overcome. We all have them. So that's one thing, is to remember what it means to be compassionate. And then the other is understanding that there's a difference between being compassionate or having compassion and having empathy. The difference with being compassionate is that what makes it distinct from like empathy is that it's driven by action. Like with empathy, you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and really understand how they feel, really take on their perspective, right? But the difference with compassion is that you have these feelings like empathy, like caregiving or whatnot, that then drive you towards action, that drive you towards, wanting to relieve the suffering of that other person. That's compassion. And so it's beyond just empathizing. Okay, I empathize, I get you, I understand. I was in your shoes at one time, whatever. There's that, and then there's compassion, which is where you take the action to try to relieve that person's suffering. The other topic was about the sun, that being the key to boosting mood. I know for sure, that scared me. So that light went out. So it's all good. It's just one light. Yeah, I know I feel great every time I start my day, quickly outside. And sometimes we want to either get right to the day, get started doing all those things, and I do. And I'm like motivated, like, oh, you know what? I want to just like start working already, or just like get to what I got to do, get to my to-do list, because my to-do list feels good. Like crossing off certain activities and tasks and whatnot. But I just know that what happens is that if I get into the day goes by very quickly, and then you get in that zone, and then the next thing I know is like I haven't stepped outside all day. And at some point I had to just stop doing that. I knew that how costly that was for me to actually spend a day without really stepping outside or taking a walk, really breathing in, like walking and breathing at the same time. And so deliberately and with a purpose. I'm like, no, I have to. That is a mandatory thing. I got to step outside in the morning before I start my day, because I never regret it. Never. I never think, man, I didn't really have time for that. No, I was like, this was definitely worth it. So what do you do to make sure you're always going outside? Well, it's the commitment, right? So, I talked about this in previous weeks, where something you want to prioritize those very important things head on or early on in the day. And for me, that's part of like a morning routine, stepping outside, even if it's cold or hot. Hot's easier, I guess, but we got layers, put some layers on, step outside. I just know stepping outside does wonders. First off, from a common sense standpoint, before the Industrial Revolution, we probably spent a lot of time outside. And so, since then, and us being inside for the most part, not just adults, but children, we're just not getting the exposure that we need. And I think that's like a very, very common thing, to be like low vitamin D, worse during the winter. It's like mandatory to get at least 10-15 minutes, because just that exposure outside triggers that hormone serotonin, and it's a feel-good type of hormone. It's a hormone that your hormones work in balance, right? So just in the same way that serotonin, it wakes you up, it keeps you focused, it's triggered by sun, and it's during the day, you're up and at 'em. On the flip side, you have melatonin at night. So when it's dark, it triggers the melatonin, triggers that hormone, which then starts putting you to sleep. This is all about balance and rhythm. If you're not exposed to the sun, your circadian rhythm is off. And then worse is that you're exposed to like bright light in like our screens at night. That throws off the circadian rhythm as well by affecting the melatonin secretion. So you want to start with the sun. It feels good, literally. Don't forget like how prominent the sun has been in history and for so many different cultures. I mean, the sun's been worshipped. The other topic is, I like this topic. This is about dealing with pressure. I've learned this in my career in a number of different ventures that I've had to do, whether it's in real estate with owning property and having tenants, or working on Wall Street in corporate, in a fast-paced, high-stakes environment, where other people are depending on you for very important stuff. And so, it's all relative in varying degrees of magnitude, right? But relative to me and relative to your experiences, we go through things that would put pressure on us, right? And just because, being a big sports fan and all that stuff, used to be a bigger sports fan than I am today. But it's been glorified, like pressure. All these things have been glorified. Like all the wrong things have been glorified. Like stress, that's nothing to be glorified. Working hard, no, sorry, not to be glorified. Working hard, sacrifices, no, thank you. If you understand really the meaning behind all those things, no thanks. So same thing with pressure. Why would I want to deal with pressure? What I realized is what that really is, because most recently, I've been in what I would consider a pressure sort of situation where I have to deliver materials, content, in a certain time frame, just to keep towards certain commitments. And I realized that the time that it was time to act and work, and it might have felt tight, but and then I was like, I think I feel pressure, or I think I see that door where if I open it, there's pressure. But what I realized is, that pressure was just thinking, oh, what if I don't finish in time? What if it's not good enough? Or what if this doesn't do anything anyway? What if this doesn't pay off? Or, oh, okay, I really want a cup of coffee. I was like, wow, I just realized pressure is just thinking about everything else but the task at hand. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. I mean, I was like, whoa, if I just focus and concentrate on the work, then everything else will take care of itself. And when you think about guys like Kobe or Derek Jeter, right? When you ask them about the big game, you ask some players, oh, how do you think you do under pressure? And I'm like, yeah, no, this is my moment. I do my best under pressure. Yeah, there's a lot of hype around that. A lot of hype. But guys like Jeter and Kobe, the way they would talk about it was literally as if it was just another game. Because the at-bat, the shot is not any different than it was in a non-pressure situation. It's the same thing. It's in a similar vein. I think they asked Kobe once, how much motivation do you have? It was some playoff game or what. He's like, you can't motivate me more than I already am. And so similarly is if I'm so confident and focused on the task at hand, there is nothing else more that I need, because all I need here is my concentration, my focus. I've done this before. I think dealing with pressure is a matter of dealing with distractions. And if you're able to, sweep away the distractions and focus on the task at hand, there is no such thing as pressure. That's legit. Wouldn't you say sometimes it's necessary to make you accelerate faster or more? No, I don't think it's necessary. You know what's necessary is your commitment. I mean, that's what's necessary. You won't get anywhere without your commitment. You won't get anywhere without concentration and focus. Let's make it very simple. Because if you're not concentrated or focused, it doesn't make a difference if you have pressure or not. The only thing that I think could benefit from pressure is that you feel pressure, then your quality of work, is not as great. You don't feel as good about it because you rushed or because you weren't in a relaxed state of flow. The only good thing is that you're going to learn that, wait a minute, next time I shouldn't operate under pressure. That's probably the best thing about pressure, is that you learn that it's not a good place to be under. It's like punishment or something. I don't know. It's like people, I understand difficulty. Difficult roads, challenges make you better. No question, of course. But there's a balance to it too. Even things that are new and challenging, you still need, it can't be so challenging that you don't even make any progress and you just give up. It's got to have that right balance of challenge, enough balance of challenge, and allow you to at least have a chance at it. And so similar with the things that got to get done under pressure, you're probably putting yourself in a position where it can be done. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in that position to begin with. So yeah, no, I don't think it's necessary. Other than the fact that it's a good lesson to learn from. Estimating the future. So it started off with asking if you ever feel like you just know, right? You have like that strong intuition, and you don't really need much to understand, where a situation is going to go, right? And that's having a very strong survival instinct. Some people have a stronger survival instinct than others, and that's based upon people's unique experiences. So we're all stronger in one sense versus another, and some have a stronger sense of survival than others. I don't think we understand that. What that means really is that you have an ability to evaluate the environment with as little bias as possible. In other words, you're not looking at things like, black and white, yes or no, right or wrong. I mean, you understand there's gray to it. You understand that, you know that you have previous experience to go by, but that's not always how things are going to turn out. And every new event and every new piece of information and data that comes relative to that event or decision you got to make impacts how you look at a potential outcome. So you're constantly updating the probability of something happening based on the number of times that you experience it. Specifically, this is a type of thinking that's called probabilistic thinking. And so basically, it's just a matter of understanding that what are the chances something could happen based on your previous experience, but also like leave room to know and understand that crazy things can happen. While you may have an idea of the things that could happen, you can also appreciate the wide variety of different scenarios that could occur. You're not right about something, or something kind of like happens the way you didn't expect it. You may be surprised, but you're not shocked, and that's a difference. And so if you can apply like probabilistic thinking to how you make your decisions, you'll find yourself less surprised. You'll find yourself better prepared for certain outcomes, and that's a result of just better decision making. So, while we can't predict the future, you can estimate the future, and you can do so by refining certain skill sets. I thought there was a really good example about that. Like, there's a lot of people, especially these days, there's, people that are, I guess, good probabilistic thinkers. Like, they're very comfortable with the uncertainty. Like, they understand, like, okay, these things could happen, but I also understand, like, crazy things have happened, like I just mentioned. They're open to saying, like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, things could happen this way, but I'm not sure. And they never say things like, I'm 100%. Anyone that ever tells you I'm 100% sure about something, I mean, it's over. Forget it. They're lying to themselves. No such thing as 100%. The more accurate way is to actually give like an actual percentage based on your confidence. Yeah, I'm about 70% sure based off of X, Y, Z. And the example that I wanted to get to specifically was even the way you describe yourself, or like the way you talk about yourself. So instead of saying like, yeah, that makes me anxious, whatever it is, you say instead, a part of me feels anxious. And it's just like, it's not more verbose. That's not just it. It's also more accurate. It also gives greater context to like how you feel, and how you could be potentially feeling that you just don't feel at that moment. Like, there could be other aspects of you that might feel the opposite of being anxious, calm and happy or whatnot. And so at least you allow room for those possibilities. And, it just makes you seem more open-minded and again, ready for the things that you weren't expecting. So, it's okay to be surprised, just don't be shocked. I think this was now episode 3, edition 3 of this weekly discussion. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back at it again next Sunday. See you later.